We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
This book I'm reading raises interesting questions about human nature. And one of the chief questions the book is suggesting is that people are basically spiritual in nature. And that strikes me as very interesting, because even though most folks have abandoned traditional religious belief and practice, they nonetheless have gravitated towards activities that underscore their spirituality.
When the summer season's here, I always pack my camping gear, and after Christmas join the van and load the cavalcade. We're hippies, yuppies, centre left, and members of the QFF join undying friendship before the night was long. Nose rings and coloured things, shooting stars and magic rings, and cooking smells and Morris bells and fiddly-diddly-dee. The drummers drum throughout the night, and lanterns burn with ghostly light to welcome in the coming year and bless the promised land.
People are drawn to festivals as they're drawn to sporting events, as mass gatherings that somehow allow them to feel a connection that they would call a spiritual connection with something larger than themselves.
That old-fashioned word of goodwill, which multiplies by the number of people giving, and it's that sense of giving and generosity that creates that spirit.
I guess it's the sense of belonging, the family thing. You come back every year. I've been coming to Woodford since the first Woodford.
It's that sense of what you have in common with so many others that is, that sense of humanity, shared humanity.
There's this excitement, and people are arriving, and people hundreds and hundreds of people that you see every year, and hugs and cuddles and...
My spiritual side is really about the environment, and I guess when you come to Woodford you get that sense of not only the created program that's there on the streets, in the venues, but you get the trees and all the animals.
There's a nest box there and a nest box there, and there's red cedar.
It's life force. I don't know. It's
It doesn't feel like you're alone, because you're surrounded by much more than just people. You're surrounded by the environment. That's also. It's funny. The natural environment tends to coexist while we're there.
I saw a plant in here with 50 chrysalises on. Couldn't believe it.
It's like food. It's food on another level. It's nourishment. It's... Oops, my little heart's going.
I think it gives people an opportunity to completely remove themselves from their life, like just their everyday way of being. Like an event is such a bubble. Having an experience that is outside of your general existence.
Yeah, but sharing it with other people.
Well, there's Pollyanna over there. I haven't seen her since last year. Her tie-dye t-shirt's left an orange stain upon her hands. Someone in the Guinness tent looks as though he's gone and spent his whole month's wages getting to Nirvana's multi-land.
What was your first festival you ever went to?
I can't remember. I remember going to the Toowoomba show. The show was quite an influence on me back in those days, Sideshow Alley. Couldn't wait for Sideshow Alley to come round. It's where I saw Johnny O'Keefe and the Maori Troubadours, the Headless Boy, the Spruikers, my first strip show, my last strip show. I suppose I started looking at festivals when I started one.
Well, here I actually work in domestic duties, as well as all sorts of things, cleaning, organising stuff. The first festival I went to, if I can remember, was the Adelaide Festival of the Arts, and I was actually a Ash Wednesday bushfire refugee. My house burnt down, and I just got given tickets to see all these amazing things, and I'd never seen so much diverse things as what I saw down there. For years, friends would say, "Jade, come up to the Woodford Folk Festival," and anyway, I finally was up here one year, and the first thing I did from Malane was actually the Can. That was could have been 1990.
Yeah, because of our involvement with folk clubs and that being our joy in our life, you were actually born into our time with music when Dad was a musician. And as a baby, you went to your first Malane when you were 8 months old. I think it was probably when you were about 4 years old. You started helping me in the Kids Festival, and then you started running workshops when you were about 12. And then as I got more busy with the planting too, then I couldn't really be hands-on with doing the kids program for the planting. So you started doing that probably about 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the year after I started working for the QFF.
Yeah, yep.
My sister and I were little, like at the Malane Festival, we'd go like every corroboree, we were just like, oh, we want to go, and we'd just be like obsessed with it, we loved it. Yeah, and as we got older, I mean, different interests and stuff, but Woodford was my first exposure to Persian music, and a whole lot of other Eastern music that I really loved, and I was particularly always involved in that folklines program. I mean, even like when I met you in India, it was like one of the first things, even before we were like got engaged, I was talking about, your music's so cool, you should come to Australia and play at Woodford.
Festival, yeah.
Like,
I suppose, everybody has a different way to crack onto each other.
I took my motorbike to the festival. The festival grounds were filled with mud. People were wading around in mud almost up to their ankles. Nevertheless, there was a smile on every face. People embracing each other. People going to different events and workshops, listening to musical performances, live dance, participating in rituals. And somehow or another, everyone would affirm that they were feeling beyond themselves, feeling good beyond themselves, feeling good in solidarity with everyone at this festival.
Well, you queued for hours for Tulkamore's gig, but just before it, need a piss. When you return, the crowd's so big you just can't get inside. Behind the main stage, it's a fact, 2 people there performed an act that wasn't even hinted at in the program guide.
like camping and having to walk everywhere and being a bit dirty and hot and whatever, getting all muddy or seems to just break down the boundaries a little bit, and people just sort of open up and are more friendly.
People were connecting with each other, and this very connection, this human bonding, was more profound and more real to them than perhaps the kinds of connections they were making outside the festival.
The common thread is possibly just some sense of safety, of well-being, of... I think humans are meant, there's millions and billions of us, we are meant to communicate, to be together, to do stuff together, and I think somehow the world's got to this point of, you know, you can be in a city and be incredibly lonely.
I mean, it actually represents like the societies that used to be, where you had the extended families, or Aboriginal, Australian Aboriginal society, which had, you know, you had two mothers, you had two aunties, so every single person within their clan group was supported. Everyone was supported, so you were never ever alone.
So I think Woodford, you know, tried to be that big family.
It gives me a sense of belonging, a sense of family, and a...
Well, it has been our extended family, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Forever.
And I think a sense of culture that a lot of people that are my generation lack, as white Australians, really.
Some people have thought that a few people who work here, that I'm actually their niece or something, and that's how close you get to people, that other people actually think that they are your actual blood family. And
One of the interesting things about any spiritual tradition is that it always has a material dimension to it. That is, it trades in stuff. Trinkets, beads, handcrafts are all sold at Woodford and other festivals. And people take these things home, and they're reminders, little mental triggers that often allow a person to then think about the good time they had at a festival, much in the manner of sporting clubs. You know, to wear your colors, your sporting colors, to have a scarf, have a beanie, have a pennant you wave when you go to sporting matches, affirms your membership in that club, affirms how you barrack for that team.
George Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause. We love him. We love him.
But it's that old-fashioned word fellowship of people coming together and sharing their lives doing something that's useful and somehow meaningful to them. And being part of that team is certainly a core value.
When I think about sport and I think about festivals as linked up, I can certainly say that in my sport currently, which involves me riding motorbikes, and I must say those morning runs into early afternoon with my mates out in the road lift me up out of myself, give me a sense of a firm integrity, give me a sense that, yeah, there's something spiritual about me, and participating in this group activity in my sport allows me to recognize it and feel it deeply.
King Billy sits there quite supreme, inventing doctrines that may seem ridiculous, but always seem to get there in the end. The volunteers are everywhere, adding to the atmosphere and creating little press gangs that take away your friends.
The notion of living in Utopia and behaving in a utopian way and wanting to contribute to that notion is a very noble one, and why shouldn't we set those targets in our own lives and in the lives of our festivals, and festivals would be the place where we come together to celebrate our utopia. A very noble thought and idea, and if people think in that way, What's wrong with that? I think it's great.
For the number of days Woodford carries on, people are really living in an illusion. Some would say a delusion. Some would push it and say a kind of temporary psychotic state in which everything feels so wonderful. People are bonding so well, and the splendor of it all is so new age, so utopian, so out of the ordinary. It bedazzles every aspect of who we are when we attend a Woodford festival.
Like a lot of people have that feeling that, like planting, 90,000 trees over all the time we've been. I don't know how many thousands of trees. We're planting the seeds for the trees to grow, for the butterflies to, looking after nature and all that kind of stuff. So I guess we are kind of planting the seeds of having this utopia kind of place where I don't know, I just keep going back to the idea of family.
There is just a 6-day period where you let go of all outside influences and you're just allowed to be whoever you choose to be.
Whenever I'm up there in the festival, you come down, change your clothes or have some food, and then desperately you want to get back up there.
At festivals, people come together and say, hey, we've got this coherence in our festival. It lifts us out of ourselves when we think about it. And we think, feel, and behave during the festival as one. We've got our act together. However, here comes the less sanguine, more somber side of things. What happens to the individual who might lose that coherence? What happens when people leave festivals and they no longer have that collective coherence?
People certainly go through a change. People who come to Woodford, it can be a life-changing experience, sometimes not always for the better. And I'm aware that the psych wards of local hospitals apparently have an increase of patients over and post Woodford Festival, and I certainly don't like the sound of that.
I think that is a shock for people when they come in and they go, I just feel so comfortable here and so like I can be myself. And then when they have to go and catch that bus to go back to Caboolture and then get on that train to get back to Brisbane and go wherever else they're going, I do actually think that's very difficult.
Reality somehow outstrips the ideal we want to achieve. That somehow utopia quickly can disintegrate, and if not becoming a full dystopia, at least become simply the everyday ordinary round of the world we live in and work in daily.
You're missing a place. You're missing it's evening and nothing happening. I'm at home sitting in front of the TV. What's happened?
When they go back to work or go back to what our sign says out the gate after you leave, it says back to reality, that the world really isn't like that. It's back to watching TV and going to a job you hate, or not having any job at all, or not living as happier a life or as satisfied a life, but somehow got a taste when they came to the festival of joy. There's something in that there that seems to work for a lot of people.
It re-energises them to go back out into the real world
And carry
what they've learnt and the experiences that they've had, whatever they may be. And, if not to make the world a better place, just to enjoy their life.
Every year we say no Woodford more, but we do it every year again and again. Every year we say, this year we maybe do something else for Christmas. We go something else, do something else. that
We don't.
we don't.
People who attend festivals are indeed utopians, but they are utopians who seek to sustain their spiritual visions in the non-festival world, to bring about, as it were, a new age in some new promised land.
So back into the real world.
Reality.
Oh, me head is sour, me breath is sour, me body badly needs a shower. I still can hear them fiddlers playing fiddle-dee-diddle-dee-dee. Me head is in a purple haze. I haven't had a crap for days, but I don't regret a minute spent within the promised land. Nose rings and coloured things, shooting stars and magic rings and cooking smells and Morris bells and oh, the drummers drum throughout the night and lanterns burn with ghostly light to welcome in the coming year and bless the promised land. Well done.
Chief Major at Jade Baroque, reporting for duty.